Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Play the Hits. It has been a hot minute. How are you, Max?
It has been, it's been a long time.
What is she doing? Get out of there.
No, why does he do this anymore?
I'm
Flies away.
done. Yeah, just flies away. Fuck it. Oh man. Yeah,
But yeah, I'm doing pretty good.
good. We have the double jump. I think we're supposed to go back to Fendrana Drifts, but I'm not 100% sure because, like I said, we just kind of left it hanging. But
Right.
yeah, how you doing, buddy?
Man. I feel like there's so much that's gone. Like, seriously, I don't think we went to Disney World like 3 weeks ago.
And then you got the
I don't think we've-
COVIDs.
Yeah, that was. Oh my god.
Yeah, you
And
and me
actually,
both.
I almost. Oh yeah, you did.
Well, remember, like
How long ago was this?
probably about 2 months ago now.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, I was it was probably before we even left. Like, I haven't felt sick in a long time, and I was having
really?
some post-nasal drip, but Addie was having a little sinus stuff
Uh-huh.
a couple days before, so I was like, okay, well, I caught what she had. I
Great.
did I did a rapid, and I was negative, so I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna, mask up on the plane like I plan to anyway.
Yeah.
And then I'm just gonna mask up everywhere inside and, just have the mask off outside.
Yeah, makes sense.
But then as, the days went on, we're enjoying ourselves. But the first thing was that the descent into Orlando.
Descent into madness. Oh,
Oh
okay.
my God. It was, well, it kind of was because I couldn't hear shit after that. Like,
Oh shit.
I just,
It
I was
got your
so,
hearing.
yeah, it got my hearing bad. And so for
Congested.
that
Yeah, I hate when that happens.
that whole first day, it was like really, I'm just trying to pop my ears. Of course,
Ooh.
you can't get gum anywhere in Disney World on the
Oh,
entire
right, because of
44 square
assholes.
miles.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wait, how big is
So I'm
Disney
like-
World?
I think it's like 44 square miles or something.
Jesus, I didn't realize it was that
Oh,
big.
Oh, it's humongous. Most of it's just land that they're not using.
I was gonna say, yeah, I was thinking like maybe 20 to give them room to grow, but 44 miles, Jesus.
No, it's nuts. It's the history is very interesting
Hey,
of
Sparks.
how they kind of learned. What's up, Sparks? They kind of learned from Disneyland that it was like, oh, Disney's moving in, and all these hotels, and everyone bought up land around them because they knew it'd be valuable.
Oh yeah, of course.
And so,
So those vacation condos go for a nice premium there.
Roy Disney, when they were buying all the Florida land, like
Uh-huh.
swampland and stuff, they were doing it under pseudonyms. So,
Oh, that makes
You know,
sense.
and they were thinking, well, no one's gonna even think twice because this is like such undesirable land. I mean, freaking
Yeah. Oh,
alligators and,
And
like
that was-
swampland,
and that was before Ron DeSantis.
right?
No,
We're only
so-
making the swamp bigger,
Do you know like
but
the
yeah.
story of like the whole like abandoned Disney village or whatever?
Oh, abandoned Disney Village.
So-
I don't know about.
So apparently there was like a series of houses that were being built, and they were, I don't know if they were for employees. I don't know the whole story, or if I do, I've forgotten it. It was meant to be like some kind of community that was essentially governed by Disney, which is every bit as weird as it sounds,
Yeah.
and also as unsustainable as it sounds. So like they built all these houses. They had like, oh shit, I went the wrong way. Like a main street that almost looked exactly like it almost looked like the set of like a movie or something like that. But it was an actual livable suburb of Disney essentially. And
Okay. This
I
is
don't
on
know
like
whether
Disney
it was-
World's property, I'm assuming.
or near it. It's in Florida. You can look it up and just
Okay.
get the actual story, or you can listen to my half-assed remembrance of it.
Okay.
They essentially like created this place, and I don't know, it was like mismanaged or something from the get-go, like just bad governance. Because is it private housing for employees? Is it a community that anyone can move into? Who the fuck knows? So I guess they like elect a mayor, and Disney didn't like him, and I don't know. Well, I'm dead serious, and like all this shit
Oh,
just
I
kind of
hear-
snowballed, and now it's like essentially abandoned and really creepy looking because it's like, what if I don't know, fucking Beauty and the Beast village just fucking got left behind. It's weird.
That's interesting. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll
look
definitely
it
look
up.
that up.
It's weird. I need to remember how to get to
And
Fendrana.
that doesn't surprise me, Disney doing something like that, just because they do some really big projects, you
Oh,
know, and usually most of them, I think these days, you know, have some kind of success, but yeah, sometimes things don't work out. And
Yeah, right.
yeah, I mean, considering
sometimes
that
to the
they've,
tune of billions of dollars.
yeah, considering that they've until like recently, very recently, and for all intents and purposes, they still run it. They've been running the whole like big city of Disney World, you know, themselves, like their own
Right,
government.
yeah. I was
so-
gonna say, and essentially the Disney community is already in existence, and it's just the dorms at Disney World where the employees stay,
yeah, yeah, and it's
which apparently is also just like an ongoing, just perpetual orgy.
oh yeah, wait, like a literal orgy.
Oh yeah. Well,
Oh my god.
So that was the other funny thing. Like, so I'm basing all this information on a obscure article from maybe like 5 or 10 years ago on Cracked, like weird
Yeah.
secrets of Disney that you didn't know, and you know it's. You know,
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
the employee dorms are an ongoing orgy.
Oh,
the abandoned Disney village that nobody talks about. Yeah,
That's funny.
yeah. And it was
I mean, I don't know. They
Cracked
a lot of people in Epcot, you know, that have to work the World Showcase, and they got the European sensibilities.
Yeah,
They're just
exactly.
a constant orgy.
Yeah, I mean, you come over, maybe you have a coffee, maybe you get fucked. Who knows? Disney shit. It's Disney.
Maybe you have some of Mickey's swell coffee.
A little bit of both.
Maybe you get some up the ass.
Oh. Bend over, bitch. Mickey, no.
Oh, we're off
I
to a
don't know
good
where the
start.
fuck. Yeah, right. We've already derailed. I have no idea where I'm going. I really should have loaded this save beforehand.
Yeah. Also,
Alright.
man, this map, like,
it's insane. Like,
it's
I
still
love
a
it.
really good map.
Yeah, I love it so much. But holy shit, there's Magmore Caverns. I zigged when I should have zagged.
Oh.
Back we
Oh.
go.
So I was telling myself I was gonna get back to Metroid Dread, and I did, and I
Oh,
beat it.
sweet.
And
Oh,
so,
good for you.
Yeah,
What
all
a
good there,
wonderful
all
game.
cut up. It is. I think I have to replay it a few more times, obviously,
Oh yeah.
but I think also it's kind of that feeling, of like I know Super Metroid so well, and the fact that
Mhm.
I don't know this game very well at all.
yeah, it's
and
weird to like.
and I'm
not
telling
to guess in a
it-
Metroid game,
seriously,
which is
and
kinda
it's
how I'm
like,
feeling
and I
right
didn't.
now.
I didn't look anything up, you know, and it's not super hard. Like,
No,
I
it's
think
not
it
the
took
worst.
me like 14 hours to beat it or
It's-
something.
it's
Like, I was definitely trying to
definitely-
pick stuff up.
It's definitely more challenging than like the classic Metroid side scroll.
Oh yeah, for sure. As far as like the fighting, like the boss fights especially,
Yeah, you get a lot of that Team Ninja flavor in there.
yeah, the Chozo warriors, like after a little while they weren't too bad, and it's just like mashing your beam basically for the most part. And then
Right.
once you get the storm missiles, that really helps too. But yeah, it was definitely the boss of the game took me like 5 tries.
Yeah,
Like,
he's a legit
it-
challenge.
he
which
is
is cool.
It was, yeah, and as far as like timing of the melee attacks and everything, they just did a really good job with the combat.
Yeah, right. I think that like counter system that they first introduced on the 3DS remake of Metroid 2.
Metroid 2,
Yeah, Samus
yeah.
Returns was really a godsend because it added just that little extra something that was just kind of missing from the. Oh, by the way, you want to know something stupid?
What?
We didn't have to wait for the jump ball. It's automatic when you get the morph ball. You can straight up jump, like I'm doing right now. And
Oh, that's good. Yeah, kind of like Dread, where which is how it should be.
Forgotten that. But yeah.
Yeah, I've played a lot of Super Metroid, so yeah, I tend to forget that too. That it's and it's not the same in AM2R. You don't
No,
have
AM2R is its own beast. Though AM2R somehow
you get a
found-
sticky thing.
Yeah, they somehow though found a way to make the combat in AM2R challenging without. God damn it! What am I doing?
Yeah, AM2R seems like an evolution of what kind of Super Metroid would be.
Mm-hmm.
And even though it has like the quickness of Zero Mission,
Right.
and Metroid Dread is just kind of its own thing,
Right.
but it's still it's obviously Metroid, and it's
Yeah,
still,
of course.
the combat's awesome.
Yeah.
I of course like the floatiness of Super Metroid, but that's really just because
Well, you
you
know
can
what's kind of
cheat so much.
You know what's kind of cool too, though. I mean, this argument is completely undermined by the fact that Zero Mission exists, but they like the fan community came up with an explanation that just the gravity on the planets is different. You know?
Oh yeah.
but you know, in Zero Mission,
But yeah,
Samus,
Zebus.
yeah, it's still Zebus, and she moves like a ninja there too. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
Doesn't
I'm
quite
cool
hold
with Ninja Samus. It definitely took some getting used to.
yeah, but I like it.
But so much of the stuff is quality of life, like as far as just going to the morph ball automatically with, I mean, that kind of stuff was introduced in Fusion, but
Yeah,
it's yeah, it's good. And I didn't realize like the, what do you call it, the speed booster, like
Speed
I figured
booster?
out how to use it. Yeah, figured out how to use it pretty easily, and then like as the game is going on, I'm like, oh, you don't lose momentum when you slide. And oh, you don't lose, like I think I definitely got some things early with the speed booster because I
yeah,
was
everything was
learning
like
to cheat it
super
that way.
fluid. Yeah,
But then I started seeing people online who are like going 5-6 rooms with the speed booster by wall jumping and stuff,
Yep.
and they're not losing speed. I'm like, oh shit, this is like the most versatile speed booster there is.
yeah, like essentially
know?
using it in ways that even the developers didn't really think of, which is always the mark of a good game.
Oh yeah,
You know, when
and
they
this
give
was,
you that kind of freedom and don't patch it out.
and I was thinking like, okay, this is definitely more which it probably still is more constrained than Super Metroid, but
Yeah.
at the same time, I was like, oh, there's really not much room for any kind of breaking bounds and stuff like that. And it's like, no, that's not true.
Yeah,
They-
no, you'd be real surprised in that one.
So yeah, I got to keep playing it because I think also just I was telling myself in the beginning like, oh, these graphics, like nothing's super colorful, so I really don't know where I am, and these places don't have much of an identity, but they do. I mean,
do,
you got
yeah.
your water place, your fireplace, like
not quite as distinct as Super, but still good.
yeah, I would say Super is more distinct, and especially with the music too. Like once I was listening to the music, I was like, okay, some of this is actually better than I thought, especially in some of the later areas. But it's still not. It's not iconic, you
Yeah.
know. I got to say, like Prime
I
and
was gonna
Super
say,
Metroid
I
easily.
actually think Prime might be my favorite map in the series.
Sound. Oh yeah, okay. And Prime has really good music too. Like
It does.
Dread. Oh, that's so cool.
I
When you like fire a shot and you see Samus's face.
Right, yeah. I kind of like the and I think it's probably just pure nostalgia. I kind of like the soundtrack of Super better. But yeah.
Yeah. I mean, honestly,
Chugging here and I don't know why.
some of the best things were when you'd have like the story beats. Most of the cutscenes would actually have Super Metroid music.
Right? Like when you meet that Chozo who like explains the entire plot in like 10 minutes.
Right. And it's the Brinstar with the vertical slice of Brinstar, which
Yes.
is like, yeah, some of the best music, of course.
Yeah. I love when they like remix those classic tracks. Like even this Norfair
Or like right
here.
now, yeah.
It's just well done. Are you getting some like
It fits.
kind of
Oh, what's up?
slowdown, just a hair of slowdown on your end?
I'm not.
Like occasionally, just like where it'll like skip a frame or something.
Oh, maybe.
I'm wondering if
I'll
it's
start paying
my-
attention.
I'm wondering if it's my Switch. I'm wondering if it's the Elgato. It's not intrusive and it's really not that bad, but I'm noticing.
Probably. I mean, I would think the Elgato, but I also, obviously, since I'm getting streamed to from over here, I
Yeah.
probably just didn't even think to notice it.
Right.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I'll let you. Oh, that is.
Hopefully
Was
within
that in the GameCube version where you
What?
have like the condensation and stuff like coming up on the
I think it
mask?
was. I think it's more pronounced here, but yeah.
Okay.
So what was I gonna say? Oh, hopefully within the next year. Okay, there's Syndrana. We're almost there. I'm hoping to upgrade the computer, and I'm thinking like one of the things that I do is just get like a built-in capture card, and a
Oh, yeah.
and then on my end a 4K HDMI splitter. So one, I'm not having to constantly plug in and re-plug in different systems. I can just kind of set it and press a
Yeah.
button and switch to the Elgato or the PS5 or the Switch.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
And less variable. I mean, it should still be the same kind of stuff. It
Right.
just takes less time.
But it's
But
weird
there's
that,
also kind of the feeling like
yeah,
it can't be this because I haven't done anything. Like,
exactly,
I haven't
yeah.
unplugged it or anything like that.
It's also just kind of weird to think that we've been doing this channel for 5 years now, and
Yeah, that's crazy.
using the same technology, it is starting to show its age, at least on my end. You and Nick have both upgraded. And, I mean, I just kind of upgraded before you guys did, and that's what got Play the Hits started. And so I'm probably about due to...
You're now due. When
Yeah.
did because I know Christy upgraded like very
Oh,
recently.
yeah, that's right. All
like,
three of you have. Yeah. Yeah, very recently.
when did Nick upgrade?
Last year, I think. He went...
Okay.
He didn't build his own. He went through a store that I recommend. But essentially, it's kind of the next best thing to building your own. You pick all the
Someone
parts.
else is building.
Right.
Yeah.
You pick all the parts, and it's fully customized, and I think you just pay a little extra for labor. But honestly,
Nice.
he built his during the GPU crisis, so
Yeah.
he actually still saved money over building his own.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Because he let a company who buys GPUs in bulk do it for him, and they essentially
Cool.
son of a bitch, they almost give it to you at market value. In that
Does he have a 3000 series? I think he has like a 3080.
Because 40 series came out last fall, right?
It was like September.
Yeah, no, he definitely built it before
Maybe
that.
earlier.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he's got a 30 series.
Okay. That's cool.
That's the same as you, right? You have 30?
Yeah, I have a 3070. The thing is like it I love it, but at the same time, running something super intensive like what do you call it? The new overdrive mode in...
Yeah, I know, right? It's already starting to...
Yeah, and it's like,
But at least
of
you
course,
can ray trace.
That's a whole thing for DLSS. Like, even a 4090 without DLSS is like running 16 frames a second at 4K.
Which is just nuts to think about, man. Like, how much the technology still has to grow. And what we're already paying for it.
Seriously. And I didn't really understand, like, so I had to look into it. I'm like, what does full path ray tracing mean? And it's just like, oh, okay, it's just not taking the shortcuts.
And it's also one of those things where, like, I'm wondering how much I'll actually notice it, but then the lizard brain part of me is like, you must have this.
You notice it in some side by sides where it's like, oh wow, that's definitely noticeable, especially like,
but in the middle of like
brightness to darkness.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah,
but
in the middle of movement,
you're probably not going to be picking it up in gameplay.
No.
You're just going to think this looks fucking awesome.
I think the psycho mode with ray tracing is like still super pretty. Like,
yeah, of course.
Yeah, and the thing is, I'm gonna be playing 1080p on the computer screen.
Yeah, so. I was gonna say too. Like my 1080 my GTX 1080 has held on as long as it has, I think, because my computer monitor is still 1080p, but like 144 hertz, which is really what I care about more with the kind of games that I play on PC. Like, I want it to run like butter more than I necessarily need it to be in Ultra HD.
Yeah, and I would agree, like, HDR, ray tracing, and how smooth it is are all more important to me than straight fidelity.
Right, and the nice thing about HDR, too, is that it makes the game look completely different, but at the same time, it's actually the display that's doing the heavy lifting in HDR.
Yeah.
It's just a different color balance and video codec. It's not like actually different processing for your GPU.
Yeah, so that's just like if you got the TV, that's just free, you know?
Exactly. It's just a free major upgrade.
What was I saying? Oh, I mean, when I'm playing on the TV, and I'm like, most of the games, I'm fine with 60 frames a second, and I'll try to do 2K if I can.
Sure.
The Witcher 3 is finally starting to get there, where I was playing that in 1080p because I'm being Novigrad with the new patch, and it would still run very choppy.
Yeah.
But a lot of that was because it was just not optimized for the PC very well at all.
Which is a shame.
For some reason.
Yeah. Well,
it's gotten much better.
You've discovered the joys then of 1440p.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. 1440p is what I aspire to right now. The 1080 is, like I said, just a little bit old, so it's not. I could probably do some games and still get a solid 60 FPS out of it. But like if I want to take advantage of my 144 hertz monitor, I've got to go 1080 or lower.
Yeah. And we've been doing 1080 for, a decade and a half at this
which
point.
Is weird to think, but the PS3 was capable of 1080p. I mean, not all games really look great doing it, but there's a thing here. I forget what it is. It's one of these. But yeah, it's weird to think about that. Like in 2006, we were capable of 1080p.
Yeah. And it was great.
That is a long fucking time ago, and it doesn't feel like
it is. And 4K, of course, looks amazing. Yes, but 2K still is like a huge upgrade. Most of the time, again, I'm not going to notice it, like unless you're taking pictures.
Yeah, right.
And yeah, everything else I care about more. The HDR, the ray tracing.
I think I'll care a lot more about 4K when you can reliably get 100 plus FPS out of it.
Yeah, and most of the games, and I agree, like doing stuff in like 144 is just freaking awesome. Mm-hmm. And most of the games I play, I don't need it. So I don't play like shooters or anything like that. But even something like, I don't know, Ori and Will of the Wisps. Yeah, I was playing that on the PC mostly, or on the PC monitor.
Right.
1080p, but 144, and oh my god,
oh, it's amazing, isn't it? Well, and that's the thing. Like, I will honestly buy games on PC or PS5 depending on like what type of game they are. Like you mentioned Ori, like something that's like really reflex intensive, or if it's like a straight like Twitch reaction first person shooter, I'll always go PC because there you're getting that extra response time and everything. If it's like an RPG or just like a visual showcase sort of thing, I'll go console, because right now I can do 4K on like Hogwarts Legacy I have on the PS5, and it's one of the only games that'll actually run at 4K 30 FPS, just because it's not super important that I get a lightning fast frame time in that game.
Yeah, it's not an MMO, but at the same time it's like kind of reminds me of one, like as far as
it's dangerously close to a looter shooter, but thankfully they have thus far avoided any like egregious microtransactions.
Okay. Have you? I know you haven't beaten that game yet, have you?
No, and in fact, I really like the game. It's just kind of taken a back seat to me, just because there have been so many freaking good releases this year.
Yeah.
This has been an
Resident
awesome year, and it's only getting started.
This year is like easily one of the best year of video game releases, like as long as everything hits their dates.
Mm-hmm.
Like and of course this is me assuming
man.
Yeah, and I'm assuming FF7 Remake 2 or Rebirth is not going to be this year. I'm assuming that's next year. And it's still like we got 16, we got Tears of the Kingdom, we have a Dead Space remake, Resident Evil 4 remake, like a lot of good indies, like Metroidvania is coming out.
You just reminded me too, like, yeah, is it bad that Tears of the Kingdom has like almost gone completely off my radar? Like, I know it's going to be good and I'm going to play it and enjoy it, but like,
no, because I know you didn't enjoy Breath of the Wild.
No, I did.
I know you enjoyed it.
I did enjoy it, but it wasn't my jam as far as the Zelda games. Like,
I know you liked.
Where Zelda is really at its best for me is when it's a dungeon like puzzle fest, and
for sure,
yeah, Breath of the Wild was definitely a completely different take on Zelda.
Oh yeah, it was very different, and for me, it's like I feel like any game, it was better because it was Zelda for sure, but it could have been any game that had that level of freedom and exploration, and I would have been blown away.
Yeah, exactly, and I have to admire Breath of the Wild for what it did. But essentially all open world games that have followed it have owed something to it.
For sure, yeah. But yeah, FF16, I think that's definitely a release I'm looking forward to, even though I don't have a PS5.
Oh my god, dude. I have not been this hyped for a Final Fantasy in a long time. Even the 7 remake, like, awesome, sure, but like ultimately, like 16 just I'm excited for them to finally just do something new with the series.
Yeah, it's and it's not fresh blood necessarily, but for a mainline series it is.
Yeah,
someone who's already proven themselves doing really good with 14, giving the fans like stuff they wanted and stuff they didn't know they wanted by just making a really solid game.
I know.
Like, And the music. Who are the freaking musicians? Like one of the main composers for 14. I know is working on 16.
You know, I don't know, but
She's freaking good.
Yeah, and I cannot think of her name. You're right. It's going to drive me nuts. You know who I'd really wish they would bring back though is the guy who did 12 and really the whole like Ivalice saga. Like I love that style that he gets.
Yeah.
The kind of like heavy bass tones and everything and like the real I don't even know how to describe it honestly. It almost sounds like kind of like military and
yeah, I was gonna say like I'm trying to think if there's another Square game
like almost Star Wars kind of.
I feel like Final Fantasy Tactics. Well, wait, did Final Fantasy Tactics take place in Ivalice?
Yeah. Final Fantasy Tactics was the first Ivalice game.
Okay, I was
Though,
like, yeah, Tactics had those kind of political drama of war kind of music.
Exactly. And you're right, that's a good way to describe it. And technically you could probably say safely that the Tactics Ogre series really is Final Fantasy Tactics just with the name switched around because when they made Tactics Ogre, it was not yet purchased by Square Enix. And so when Square Enix drafted that studio to make Final Fantasy Tactics, they were like, okay, we can't call it the same thing as we called it in Tactics Ogre, so let's make our own world called Ivalice. And they're like, okay, so they just set it in Ivalice and did exactly what they did in Tactics Ogre. So
yeah,
you could honestly argue that Tactics Ogre is very much an Ivalice game.
Yeah.
It's just
I haven't played any of the
FF Tactics.
I have not played any of the Tactics Ogre games, but I know one just came out, right?
Well, no, so not just came out. It's a remaster of a remaster. So
okay.
On the PSP, the original Tactics Ogre got re-released as Tactics Ogre Let Us Cling Together. And I don't know if it's like still necessarily called that, but whatever the version that you can find on Steam right now, it is still the original Tactics Ogre with a little bit of Let Us Cling Together left over. And then also just like a full-on remaster, aside from everything else. So,
do you have that game, or because I feel like Nick got it, you got it?
I have Let Us Cling Together. I have not yet bought the Steam one, but I fully intend to at some point. It's just with my backlog of games right now, and all of like the other ones from this year that I still have yet to finish or purchase. It's just I'm just looking at a long library.
Oh yeah, I get it. I mean, the Steam Deck, I think, kind of helps.
Yes,
you can get through more of the Steam library a little bit.
I cannot stress enough how glad I am that you brought your Steam Deck over in November, because I honestly would have given it a pass until maybe like the next time that they do a refresh of it. And I would have been bummed out about that, because the Steam Deck, it turns out, continues to just be one of my freaking favorite consoles in existence.
Yeah,
like,
it's also the team behind it.
Yes.
Like the Steam sensibilities stuff. Just you feel like, oh, would Nintendo ever update, this in a way where cloud stuff just syncs like so well between the 3DS and Switch or something? Like,
love that I can absolutely just, and I'm not really doing it right now because I'm just not using my PC for much more than play the hits right now. But if I were to get like a refresh and it was more powerful than my PS5, I definitely would. It's just so awesome to be able, though, to save your game on your Steam Deck, open it on your PC, and vice versa. That is just such an amazing.
And if something's like, just today, I've mostly been playing, also, just as an aside, like freaking awesome system for like RPGs, indies, and stuff. Like, I imagine you're playing a lot of Chained Echoes on the Steam Deck.
Like, I finished Chained Echoes and it was good.
Nice.
Man. Check that out.
Yeah,
actually,
I'm gonna check that shit out.
I was joking about Tears of the Kingdom. One of the releases that I'm most looking forward to this year is the team that did the Ninja game.
Messenger?
Yeah, Messenger. They're making an RPG, Starlight something or other. And
yeah, you're right. There's a demo, I think, on Switch right now.
Oh, there's a demo already?
I believe there is.
Oh, shit.
I'm gonna look this up.
Yeah, okay. Go for it, because the name is like super generic sounding, but it looks beautiful.
Messenger. I'm gonna see who the developer is. I know it's devolved. Sabotage? That doesn't sound familiar.
It doesn't, but I mean, I think the Messenger also, like the team that made it, just has. I think they're just good at super generic sounding names.
All right,
Like
let's see.
Shadow Assassin Game Studio.
Sea of Stars.
Sea of Stars, thank you. Oh
And
my
yes,
gosh,
there is a demo,
good.
and I haven't played it yet, but I've had the demo on my Switch for like 2 weeks. It's,
Okay.
It's definitely been
Well,
there.
now that I know that there's a demo, I will be downloading that as soon as we're done tonight.
Yeah.
Have I told you my kind of impromptu review of Chained Echoes?
No, not yet.
Okay.
I mean, you did tell me in the beginning, like, oh man, this game really sort of reminds you of Chrono Trigger, but there's a lot more influence. Like,
Yeah, no, go ahead, because my initial thoughts were wrong.
Okay. All right. Well, no, I want to hear.
Okay.
Like,
So here's my final verdict. It's not Chrono Trigger. It is Final Fantasy 12 meets Final Fantasy 6 meets Xenogears. And
interesting. What about 12? Is it like the
oh
system?
my god. If you were to play it, like I can't even get started on how many things it lifts directly. And I mean like not even like, oh, this is sort of like it. No, this is the same system as FF12.
Okay, hey, I'm down with that.
Yeah, me too. But so here's the thing. I love the game. Like in my rating, it's probably like a solid 8 out of 10 game, and you should definitely pick it up. However, like the guy who made it, and I think it was one of those things that started as just like a one-person project, and then kind of like slowly became more when it got like kickstarted and everything. He clearly grew up playing the exact same JRPGs that you and I did.
Yeah.
And his goal was to make like the ultimate like crossroads of JRPG 90s games. And in a way he succeeded, but there's absolutely straight up like plot beats in that game that aren't just like inspired by, but I would almost say plagiarized from and honestly, like from Xenogears in particular, parts of FF6 and systems from FF12, particularly from FF12. Okay, so there's a license board like system for collecting like optional quests and things like that.
Okay.
But then there's also like a purchase system. Remember how in FF12 you could sell loot and it unlocked items that you could purchase? Yeah. He like without any kind of like veil, like, oh, this is just a tiny bit different. No, it is exactly 100% the same. You pick up loot from enemies, you sell it, and it unlocks packages of items that are like really good.
And also, it was such a weird, just odd system. I've never seen in another game.
And it's a good system. It's good that he took it because it works.
It was fun.
It's fun. And there's also like a hunt board. Like it's not necessarily hunting. Well, it is. It is hunting specific enemies, but it's also a little bit more than that. Sometimes it's just plain old side quests and everything that lead you to something good.
Yeah.
What else? So there's a part in the early story where literally you get to select the main characters get split up into 3 different parties, and you select which one you want, and it's whatever order you like. It's straight up FF6. Like I said, none of this is necessarily bad. And then from Xenogears, like I don't want to spoil any of the story, but the story is heavily, and I mean heavily, Xenogears. And I don't know if you ever played that game through.
I've never personally played it through. Like a lot of those JRPGs, I watched either you or my cousin play through.
Okay, so honestly, like I would go so far as to say that if you end up playing Chained Echoes, you almost don't need to play Xenogears, because it's not just that they get mechs that they can fly around in. It's also that like the story beats in a few spots are like 1-to-1 comparisons, like characters having alternate identities that have lived previous lives and things like that. It is absolutely Xenogears. And
is it the main character and the love interest? Like,
yes. Well,
oh my god,
and that's the thing. So one of the cool things is it's not necessarily a love interest situation. It starts out like you think it's going in that direction, but then it kind of takes a different twist, which if I were to spoil, I'd be spoiling one of the main story beats of the game for you. So it does do like its own things, but it's almost like, what if in Xenogears they made a left turn when they made a right, you know?
Okay.
Yeah, like that's how insubstantial the differences are in some parts. Like,
I love Xenogears.
Yes. And
so I'll definitely play this.
It is very clearly a fan game, but not like a Kingdom Hearts, but everybody's gay. It's more like what I described.
So
like,
Kingdom Hearts,
right? Like Xenogears What If or FF12 What If, and another thing too. I'm thinking about like writing down all of the things that are taken directly from FF12. Like for instance, when you first get the party together, they're thrown into like this sewer level where they all kind of come to, like, so remember at FF12 when you first meet Ash, she's in the sewer. Yeah, it's exactly that. Almost down to like the way they interact with each other, like, Victor is Balthier, and et cetera, et cetera. But then there's also like just like really random stuff where it's kind of like, okay, this is either an Easter egg or he thought we wouldn't notice. There's a princess leading a rebellion, and her name is Amalia.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
there's
not even a different spelling,
homage?
just Amalia.
There's a line between homage and like just straight plagiarism.
Exactly.
Where you're just lifting.
And that was my sole frustration with this game, where like at the end of it, like it started off like, oh cool, he's like borrowing this and that, and that's really neat. But then there were some plot beats which were almost like completely ruined for me, because I'm like, is he really
You saw it coming?
Right. Well, not just saw it coming, I've read this before. You know?
Yeah.
Like, is he just straight up... It's almost like if you saw a Stephen King movie named That, about a psychopathic, murderous clown, and it's like...
Oh my
really?
God.
But like some of the names, but instead of Derry, Maine, it takes place in Napoleon, Ohio. Like,
I still want to check it out, but that
it's
is
good.
disappointing.
Check it out. Don't let me like spoil.
You're not talking me out of it.
Yeah,
like for sure. But that's,
like at the
that's
end of
kind
it,
of funny, but also like, oh, dude.
and I will say to the creator's credit, and I can't think of his name, but he does deliver a couple of surprises that I genuinely didn't see coming.
Okay.
So there is that.
You were talking about marks, and I was thinking.
Yes, marks.
First
He
of
has
all,
marks.
FF16. Have you seen the state of play?
No, I've not watched the state of play yet. I've only seen the open world aspects, or semi-open world.
Watch the fucking state of play, man. You owe it to yourself. You gotta watch it.
I'm gonna do that after we're done.
It's good. I think it's just gonna get you more. And the thing is, dude, when you're telling me some of this stuff, I'm like, oh, so you watched the state of play.
No.
The fact that you haven't, I think it's just gonna confirm some of the things
are you kind
that
of
you think are there.
Are you telling me that FF16 borrows some from FF12? Because if you do, I'm just gonna cream my jeans.
Yeah, it seems like it. I mean, they have like a whole.
Thank you, God.
They have a mark system, and it just looks pretty cool.
I'm so thrilled.
And it's so weird. It seems like it's borrowing some of the best parts of some of the mobile games.
Okay.
And I don't say that lightly, like, because it definitely seems like just an aside you can do in like a home base or something.
Sure, but if it's different, bring it on. Fucking bring it on, man. I am down for a different kind of Final Fantasy, because 13 and 15 did not do it for me overall. Dude, like, there were things I enjoyed about both.
The thing is, like, with 15, this is like the exact opposite, where it was like seeing the first trailers for Versus 13 and stuff was like, holy shit, this game's gonna be awesome. And it was like, I got a little less excited as it got closer to
time
release,
went on,
but I was still hyped for it, And then the game itself was like, okay, it was a disappointment. It was still good, but it let me down in a massive way.
Well, and where I knew 15 was going to be a little bit rough is when they released a trailer, like about a month before the game actually got released. You remember the one where like Noctis is on the subway and it all takes place in the city, and
there's no gameplay.
Right,
It's just
and it kind of hints
badass
that
trailer.
Right, and he kind of hints that he might kill Luna Freya for some reason. It's like, oh my god, what could all this mean? And it's like, this isn't indicative of the story at all. This is just kind of a thematic interpretation. It's like, what the fuck are you doing or trying to tell us right now? Like I'm seeing none of that with 16, where it's like you have to watch this prologue video, and some of this isn't actually in the game, but it kind of gives you an emotional idea of where the characters are. And it's like, no, I don't know. Don't give me that shit. Just give me the game.
Yeah.
And give me the whole story in the game. Like if you release extras that enhance the story of the game, fine. But yeah. Anywho, sorry. I'm
no, that's fine. This definitely seems like a game where it's just like they are trying to wow people.
Excellent.
And I think it's something where they probably could have released it a while ago.
Oh,
it really just seems
but they're taking their time, which is
it really seems like there's just a lot of care put into it. That's just the feeling I get. Especially the fighting system, which is like,
Devil May Cry.
I know some people might not like, that it's Devil May Cry. They're trying something different, but at the same time, they've done this with 15, with Kingdom Hearts. This is just like the next step.
Right, exactly. You know? It's better, right? And honestly, I truly don't care, because
there's. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say it. Like Square Enix is such a diverse studio at this point that I think we're good on like turn-based RPGs. Like there was a long time where like classic RPGs, like the PS3 era, were kind of ushered into the background. Between. Right. Yeah, exactly. But now, like, if we want a classic turn-based JRPG, they have the Dragon Quest series, and that is doing just fine. But like Final Fantasy now can afford to like not rest on its laurels and do something completely different, because like Square Enix has other projects that satisfy that market.
Really? Yeah, they got Bravely Default series. Right. They got the 2.5D, like Octopath.
Yep.
Those games are fantastic, you know?
And the great thing is in a weird way, like the Devil May Cry action combat system is really more true to the series than if they had just stuck with turn-based, because like Final Fantasy's thing, Final Fantasy's thing has always been that it evolves. Like it created in 1986 the idea of a party system that actually shows your characters fighting, and then after that they created the ATB, which brought everything into real time. And then after that, they created the active dimension
job
thing,
system.
And, the job system and the active dimension system in FF12. But like they've never actually just committed to, we're just a turn-based RPG. People kind of think of them that way because of like the PlayStation and SNES like golden era. But truthfully, like all of those games made big changes. Like 7 was way different than 6 with limit breaks and materia, and then 8 was completely fundamentally different.
Lest we not forget how a lot of people, myself included, did not like 8 after 7.
Yeah.
And I think it's just we weren't ready, you know? I know you liked it, you were cool with it. But...
I really liked it, even though I will still readily admit that the junction system was kind of half-baked. Like I almost feel like with that one they had like a really good premise and didn't quite flesh it out enough, because they had to follow up 7 while it was still hot.
But see, they could have followed up 7 by making something just like 7. They could have done 7-2 or something, and they didn't. And I respect that.
Yeah, totally.
And I kind of feel like this is what they do. Like you said, I think if FF5 came out at the same time that it did in Japan, that I would have been very like, whoa, what is this? Like, I don't know about this job system, and I would have loved it eventually, but I might have been kind of cold on it at first, you know. And they still do it. They innovate.
And that's the thing. Like the job system never went away. It just kind of evolved. And that's the cool thing that they do with FF is they're always building on previously established things, but taking them into like the summons in this game. They're not really summons; they are forms that you can take for like epic kaiju battles. Which you know my love of kaiju, and so I could not be more excited for that.
I love that it's like, yes, there's the epic kaiju battles, and it seems like each one of those, some of them are like, hey, this is kind of like still action RPG, and some of them is like, we're just gonna do fucking Panzer Dragoon or something. Like,
right.
You know,
bring it on.
So those are cool, but it reminds me of Naruto in the way that,
don't say that.
like Devil May Cry. Let me say it like this. Then it reminds me of like Vincent Valentine, where it's just like you have all these summons, and you have the big kaiju battles, but then you like just call on Ifrit's power, and you're like hybrid Ifrits,
like where you're switching between them.
Yeah,
are we
and
sure that I can't
it's not just
there?
Ifrits. Like you could do that with other summons, and so just the amount of combo potential is fucking nuts in this game.
Yeah.
Like,
and in that way, like I was initially really worried that like the party members were not really party members. They were kind of like support characters, like in the background. But like seeing what they're doing with the combat, I get it. Like there's so much going on with Clive that you won't really have room to dictate the actions of anyone else, and that's fine.
And that's why I still like
style.
That's why I still like that they have like the 7 remake series, and I hope they continue that, in some other way.
7 hit
because I like
perfect,
that.
So for all of 7 remake's faults, it hit the perfect sweet spot of like the classic party system, but more like real time combat.
Yes.
And people would probably strongly disagree with me with this, but it almost felt like more of an evolution of 12's system than it did 7.
Okay, because I was like, could you switch character? I'm like, yeah, of course.
Because 12 was absolutely an ATB game. Like 10 went back to turn-based, but 12 was ATB. It just a lot of you could program what actions your characters took, but at any given time, as long as their ATB gauge was full, you could give them commands that they would do the next time their ATB gauge was full, and you could do that for the whole party.
You could jump back in whenever.
And you can absolutely do that with 7 remake.
Yeah, and I kind of feel like 12.
It's just more frenetic.
Not to belabor on 12 too long, but it's like they forced you to do a lot on your own at first because you couldn't do a whole lot automatically, and then that just naturally builds. And it's like, okay, here's this thing you can do, and you can jump back in because you know how to.
Exactly. One criticism I would have of 12 is that it took them just a hair too long to really get to the point where like the combat system was super engaging, which when you finally got there, it was great. Like the Gambit system was awesome, but it took way too long for you to get there, like to the point where like in the beginning of the game you were literally just hitting X attack
for sure
for hours and hours before you got those sweet gambits. The
gambits cost a lot of money. Like if you had all the money in the world, you could just buy everything in the beginning, but no.
Well, and the cool thing about the gambit system though was that it was open-ended enough that you could actually do some pretty clever workarounds. Like for instance, you don't get a revive option until like very near the end of the game. Like you don't get the revive gambit until near the end of the game. However, if you do like party member life or
down.
Party member Phoenix down, like you don't have to specify that they're down. They will only use it if it's relevant,
needed. That was great.
So like you don't need the command revive, you just need the spell and the target, and they will do it when it's necessary.
For sure. There was 12 was great. 12 was a great game.
And people don't still to this day. I think the remaster gave it a bit more love than initially got, but to this day, I consider it criminally underappreciated.
Yeah, well, I told you I didn't beat the game. Hell, I didn't get more than like 3 hours in until I played the remake or remaster, and I did that on the Switch. And I will say, knowing how the original PS2 version was.
Mm-hmm.
I will say it would be hard for me to go back with some of the quality of life things in the
Yes.
remaster. I know the super, like the latest version, you could choose 2 jobs,
Yes.
and I'm not saying you have to
Fuck it.
do that. I love
We're
like
going.
doing the acid bath at the end of Lower Norfair, where it's just like I'm not taking the easy way back. I wanna, but
I got 3 energy
yeah,
tanks.
like having so you have your 3 slots in the beginning for gambits, but then you could have this whole other like Castlevania Dawn of Sorrow, hit this button and here's your other loadout.
Yes, right.
You know, having the 2 loadouts very quickly was cool, and I know they didn't have that in the PS2 version.
Correct, yeah. Or for that matter, a functional camera system. Like, you remember how in the PS2...
Oh, yeah?
The PS2 version, one of the few things I hated about it, even when it was released, was that the only camera option was inverted. And there was no way to change it. And
that
so,
sucks.
And I never use inverted camera controls. Like,
Weirdly,
I
I did in the 64 days.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just because I played a shit ton of Star Fox.
Right,
but...
exactly. Well, and that's the thing. Like, so I really loved FF12, and I forced myself to get to know it. And then after playing FF12, when I played every other game in the world that used non-inverted controls, it felt really weird because I finally got used to them.
Yeah. Yeah, that sucks. I can't do inverted anymore. Like,
oh man, fucking inverted. I'm just glad that like one of the big things that has happened since like the PS3 days is that every game gives you extensive control options. Like you can always tailor it to your personal comfort, which is nice.
Yeah. God, I feel like I was going to say something about 16.
Yes, please do. The state of play, the combat.
Dude,
FF12.
yeah, check out the... It's like, there's a point where it's just like, we're really proud of our combat. Watch Clive do stuff for like 2 minutes here, and they don't say shit. They just show you stuff.
And that's the other thing I'm excited about is... Sparks, why were inverted controls a thing anyways? Yeah, because somewhere,
I don't know.
Some god hates you.
Because Flight Simulator was a thing.
Yeah, right.
Microsoft has
and
too
honestly,
much
that's
say.
kind of what I was thinking, is that for a lot of people, it did make sense. Like, if you grew up playing flight simulators with, like, a joystick, that makes sense. But
yeah,
it doesn't
for that
necessarily
game.
make sense in a third-person control scheme.
No, this is one of those things that I think most people like non-inverted, but I think for the people who like inverted, I think it's a very divisive thing. They're like, how could you not like inverted? That's the way to do a camera. Like, there's no in between, I feel like.
Yeah, I agree, and you can call me small-minded, but no.
No, I agree.
Going back to
can't
16, one of the other things is that I'm really excited for is that Clive himself seems like a super fleshed out protagonist, which I really think Tidus was the last protagonist that by the end of the game I really felt like I understood. Like Noctis, he was cool, but like there was so much of his story that you had to get from like supplemental materials. And you know, he was a little bit one note, not quite as bad as Lightning or Vaughn, but you know, I don't know.
I would say
his growth in that game was more like, I don't want to be king. Okay, I want to be king.
Yeah.
Like as a person, he was always just kind of a slightly aloof but nice guy.
Yeah, and some of the things were just like, yeah, sure, we'll help you with this. It's like, yeah, is that who you are, Noctis? Like,
and
some things that would happen would surprise you.
Yeah, right.
It felt like you never really knew him.
Right, like Noctis didn't make a decision in that game that ever surprised me. Like, I always knew what he was going to do next.
Oh, okay.
Lightning, same thing. Lightning was always just going to be a badass. And
well, that's true.
She was cool. She was,
like you said, Lightning was one notes.
Yes. And then Vaughn always just wanted to be a sky pirate, and like there was never like, I get like the thing with his brother, but there was never a moment in the game where Vaughn was like, okay, it's time to take up the mantle of the hero or something like that. You know?
Yeah. Vaughn was
that doesn't have
too
to
cool
be
for school with a chip on his shoulder.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. And you know that doesn't have to be the growth of every like RPG protagonist, but at the same time with Vaughn, he started wanting to be a sky pirate and he ended wanting to be a sky pirate. There was never really moment where he drove the story necessarily. It was always
Yeah.
it was Bosch that drove the story, and he was a good character, but he was also
Yeah.
kind of one note because it was just vanquished
It was-
knight on a quest for redemption, right?
I would say Bosch and Ash were the ones that drove. Excuse me, were the ones that
Absolutely.
drove the story.
Well, and
but
then
at the same, it was
Balthier
like,
was kind of the mysterious character too.
yeah, true.
So Ash was just
the
kind
actual badass.
Yeah, right. So Vaughn was just kind of like witnessing like the stories of more interesting people.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
He was kind of like
but
Watson,
I did like
you
that.
know, like where he writes Sherlock. Like, this is all the awesome shit that my friend Sherlock
right.
did. You know?
I liked
was
all the
fun.
characters in 12, and I'm not
Me
saying
too,
you're
me too.
saying you're not saying the opposite. I know that.
Right. I didn't
but I
dislike
get
them,
it.
but yeah.
I get it that someone like Titus
Okay.
is like, okay, there is an actual development.
So back to
that
Titus. Like by the end of FF10, I felt so strongly for Titus that I actually shed a few tears for him. Where like at the beginning of the game, I'm like, this guy's kind of a little bitch.
Yeah, for sure. I felt the same way.
And good for them for writing a character that literally matures as a human being over the course of the 40 hours you spend with him. That's kind of what I'm getting from Clive. And I'm really excited for that because that seemed like a PS1 era thing where like, Cloud is a different person by the end of the game than when you started. Squall is a different person by the end of the game than when you started. Zidane, same thing. And I really think that Clive, because his motivation in all of the trailers, he's just out for revenge. He is a hateful, bitter man, right? And by the end of that, though, I hope that we see, he finds like a reason not to be bitter anymore, right?
Yeah,
like that would be the hope. Unless it is just like a straight up revenge story, which can be done well if it's carried through realistically.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I wouldn't mind.
He doesn't seem.
Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I was gonna say Clive does not seem one note. Like from the trailers, you do get a lot of like he's out for vengeance. You know,
but they very clearly, like the first act of the game, you pretty much know what it's about. Like him in his youth with his brother, and his brother gets screwed over, and that's why he wants vengeance. And like, so like, I like vengeance. His brother is Joshua, the little boy who's the icon.
Has
for
the Phoenix.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he gives part of his power to Clive, and that's what allows him to, for whatever reason, like control multiple.
Okay, gotcha. Because I remember in the beginning, it was like, this is his brother, right? I think they probably said that then.
Exactly.
But lately, he's probably both, like his brother and his retainer. I'm assuming he takes like both roles.
So actually, they've told you about that in previous story segments. So Clive is the firstborn, and his father like essentially sort of disowns him because it's supposed to be the firstborn son who, like carries on the family legacy, but Clive didn't show any like magical talent, and so Joshua was born. And he's like, oh my god, this is the icon for Phoenix. This is the special child. And so he like set Clive aside, but Clive, rather than becoming bitter about that, just dedicated himself to protecting his little brother, which was really cool. Mm-hmm. But then his little brother, as you see in the trailer, gets attacked and he's unable to help him. And so the story picks up however many years later, and Clive is just out for revenge. And so I'm hoping that where that goes then is it starts out as a straight revenge story, but then over the course of the thing, like he finds comrades and like it becomes about more than just gratifying himself. Which
and
I think is where they're going. But
I'm assuming that's the case.
Yeah,
just because of what they say
too.
In the state of play.
Right.
They tell you the time frames that the game takes place in.
Right. Yeah. Oh, okay. So is it like 10 years, 5 years? What's the skip?
They don't tell you exactly, but they basically say, you start the game as a teenager, or you start the game as a boy, young man,
right?
And then you have a flashback very early on that's extended, apparently, about him as a teenager and all that stuff.
Oh, okay, so that's where that happens. I got you.
And they don't tell you when, but at some point you become an older man.
Oh, like, interesting. So not style.
Not old,
so that
but
means
like
like
30.
In
his 30s. Yeah,
so that means
exactly,
like 27 years old.
So I'm wondering if the older, Clive is like a little bit. Maybe it's the same.
So have
mission.
they revealed old Clive yet, or is it just
they have? Yeah.
Is it just like 16-year-old Clive, 20-year-old Clive, and 25-year-old Clive?
probably looks like 30-year-old Clive.
Okay.
I wouldn't say maybe he has grays. It seems like his hair is slightly more heathered.
Okay,
It's
I
definitely
think
longer,
that would be kind of
but
a really unique twist if we literally got
you'd
to.
have a heavy story card. The graphics don't show anything. I mean, sort of.
Yeah.
Like, but I feel like a lot of the little beats we had to use our imagination.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
which was fine. Like,
Well, so I remember when I was a kid, I did like these series of drawings when I really should have been working on classwork, where like I had this idea of Final Fantasy VI as like in between the year where the World of Balance and the World of Ruin take place, like the characters just like completely change their look. So like I drew like World of Balance Locke and World of Ruin Locke, and he's like got a scar and he's like got a leather jacket now, and I thought it was really edgy.
yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like, I think that kind of thing is cool to, like, show growth.
Yeah.
And so I think one of the
Yeah.
really unique things that they could do, given that 16 revolves around one central protagonist, is, like, you know, youthful Clive, kind of naive, like, young adult Clive, where he's just bitter and out for revenge. And then, like, maybe, like, 40 to 50-year-old Clive, which I don't think they would do, but you never know. Like, 40 to 50-year-old Clive, where he's, like, I tried revenge and it just was not worth it, and so they call him back because he has like powers that no one else has, so he has to do something. And I don't know. I'm not writing the game, but I think if I were to, that would be the kind of story I want to see. And the game that did this really well, and people hated it for it, was The Last of Us 2, where Ellie, have you played The Last of Us 2?
No, but I know pretty much everything that goes on in it.
Okay, cool. So it starts out, she's straight up out for revenge.
Yeah.
To a large degree, she gets her revenge. And then by the end of the game, she's slightly older and has settled down. But then she like hears, oh, hey, this person who fucked you over is still out there. And she's like, do I do it? Do I not do it? She decides to go for revenge, but it costs her everything. And that's as far as I'll say about that.
Yeah.
So that would be
It's
kind
like,
of a cool, like if they were to do like FF16 as a really dark story, I wouldn't mind it being like, yeah, Clive gets his revenge, but it demolishes his life sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, Last of Us 2, kind of the same thing where it's like 3 different ages, right?
Yes,
like,
correct. So there's
kind of right after the first one.
right. So
just to show
yeah.
some.
You're exactly
Yeah,
right.
and then-
So in the first game, she's a 14-year-old kid. In the second
The whole
game,
time,
you
yeah.
mostly play through her at like 18 or 19, somewhere in there. But then by the end of the game, she's in her early 20s, and that's where what I just described happens.
Yeah.
I'm thinking we're going to have to get to, well, we have a save point here. I'm thinking we're going to have to next time on Play That Hits this point.
Okay.
At least I figured out where we're going. It
yeah.
took me a minute to remember. Yeah.
That's okay. I mean, it's just like, I'm kind of impressed you're not doing more backtracking. Like,
this can be a long
You still
game.
remember this game pretty well.
Ish, yeah. It can be a long game. But yeah, so closing thoughts, 16, that's probably the thing that I'm most excited for is just, one, a coherent story, contained within a single game. Because to my knowledge, they haven't said that we're like, oh, by the way, here's FF16, the mobile prologue, and here's FF16, the DVD that you need to buy.
Definitely not.
No, they seem to be focusing it in the game. They have a real clear direction with the protagonist. The one thing that I still haven't seen that I would like to see is a strong villain presence. Like, I know there's like the other icon leaders, but no one of them is like revealing themselves as like the mastermind, which, you know, you probably don't want to do in game trailers. But at the same time, I would like if there's like, oh, hey, there's a Kefka character or there's a Sephiroth character.
Isn't it interesting that most game trailers kind of do that? Mm-hmm. But this is almost like, are they going to do something like the old Final Fantasies?
And so
you don't even know?
I actually read a really interesting theory on that, which is for like the first half of the game, you are the villain. Like, Clive is demolishing these nations so that he can have his revenge. Like, he's taking their crystals and their icons away so that he can have his vengeance. But then he gets like maybe like a wake-up call halfway through, which I think would be really cool. Like, if, you know, you're just like this horrible person for the first 20 hours of the game, and then the second half of the game is like cleaning up your mess. That would be a really unique twist, which I don't necessarily see from a Final Fantasy game, but would not be opposed to.
Yeah, that would. I mean, the closest we got, I guess, would be 4. But Cecil was always had a good heart.
Yeah, and like Dark
even
Cecil,
if he did shitty things.
Yeah, Dark Cecil wasn't like a unique entity either. Like,
yeah,
except for that one battle. But yeah.
So yeah, that would be really interesting. I would be so down for that.
Yeah, I would love to see, like, if they're going whole hog on like Clive as the driving force of the story. I want to see Clive, really grow, and I hope they accomplish that. But
yeah. Sparks, there's going to be a part 3 on 5 that's only playable. Oh, on 3 of 5 that's only playable on PS1.
Yeah. You have to go back and play the 16-bit version of FF16.
Oh, jeez. Okay, of 16. I was like, what?
Dark Cecil is available anytime you want him in Dissidia. All right, Max. This has been sort of Metroid Prime. We'll go into this research lab next time.
Alrighty. Well, watch that State of Play, and then we can talk about it next time.
To right now.
All right, man. Well, I'll see you next time.
Yep. Hopefully not so long between episodes now that everything is calmed down a little bit. See ya, buddy.
Yep. See ya.
Still have my PS1. Same. Love it.
Nice. Yeah. Me too. The old fatty that you could put the Game Sharks and stuff in. So, night, Sparks. We'll see you later.
Good night, all.